The backstage area of Ireland's Got Talent 2025 buzzed with noise and anticipation, dancers stretching, singers rehearsing, producers whispering into their headsets. Amid the organized chaos stood a small boy in a slightly oversized black suit, holding a worn-out deck of cards with gold edges. His name was Miguel Santiago, only 9 years old, from Manila, Philippines. Miguel wasn't like the other contestants. He didn't have a manager, a stylist, or even professional equipment. He had only his cards, a small box of props, and a heart full of dreams. His mother, Marites, kneeled beside him, adjusting his bow tie that hung just a little crooked. Her eyes were filled with both pride and worry. "Anik," she whispered softly, "remember what Papa told you, magic isn't about tricks. It's about the heart." Miguel nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "I'll make Papa proud." A backstage crew member motioned toward him. "You're up next, kiddo." Miguel's little hands trembled as he walked toward the stage entrance. Through the curtain, he could hear the thundering applause from the previous act, a group of fire dancers. The audience was wild. He peeked out, the lights, the crowd, the 4 judges sitting behind the glittering table. Among them was Simon Cowell, whose name alone sent shivers down his spine. His mother gave his shoulder a reassuring squeeze. "No matter what happens out there, you've already won, okay?" Miguel smiled faintly, though fear still flickered behind his eyes. The announcer's voice boomed. "Next up, all the way from Manila, Philippines, please welcome 9-year-old magician, Miguel Santiago." The crowd clapped politely as Miguel stepped into the light. The spotlight hit his face, and for a moment, everything went silent. He blinked against the brightness, his small figure almost swallowed by the massive stage. Simon leaned forward, intrigued. "Hello there. What's your name?" "Miguel," he stammered. "I'm 9 years old, and I'm from the Philippines." The crowd gave a soft cheer, a few even shouting, "Go, Miguel." Simon smiled. "You're very brave to be here, Miguel. What are you going to do for us today?" "I'm going to show magic," Miguel said, gripping his cards tightly. "But it's not just tricks, it's a story." The judges exchanged curious looks. Amanda leaned closer. "A story. Interesting." Miguel nodded. "A story about love, and about my papa." A hush fell over the room. Even the camera operators stopped to listen. The lights dimmed slightly, a soft piano melody playing in the background. Miguel placed a small framed photo of a man, his father, on the table before him. "This was my papa," he said softly. "He loved magic. He told me that when I do it, I should always make people feel something. So this is for him." The crowd was silent. He took a deep breath. His hands shook slightly, but his eyes grew steady. His mother watched from the sidelines, her hands clasped together, whispering prayers in Tagalog. Miguel whispered, "Okay, Papa, this is for you." He shuffled the deck, fumbled a little, and a few cards fell. The audience chuckled softly, but no one mocked him. Simon gave him an encouraging nod. Miguel smiled nervously, picked up the cards, and started again. The music swelled gently as he took a single card, the King of Hearts, and held it up to the crowd. "This card reminds me of my papa," he said. "Because he always said love is the greatest magic of all." He waved his hand once, and the card turned into a photograph of him and his father, taken years ago in Manila. The crowd gasped. He held the photo to his chest and whispered, "For you, Papa." The moment was quiet, heavy with emotion. The camera zoomed in on Miguel's tearful eyes, the golden light reflecting like starlight. As the music faded, Miguel bowed his head slightly, preparing for the next act, the one that would change everything. The lights dimmed, and a soft, single spotlight glowed over Miguel, the little magician from Manila. The stage felt enormous, stretching like an ocean of light before him. The judges leaned in closer, their faces half lit by the golden hue. The audience quieted down, all eyes fixed on the boy with trembling hands. Miguel took a deep breath. The music started, a gentle piano melody that seemed to echo his heartbeat. He opened his small black box and pulled out a simple white silk cloth. His voice, soft but steady, carried through the microphone. "Greater than, when I was little, my papa taught me my first magic trick. He told me, real magic doesn't come from your hands, it comes from your heart." He spread the silk cloth on the table and placed the photo of his father in the center. "Papa loved to laugh," Miguel said, smiling faintly. "He used to say that every smile is a bit of magic." The audience smiled, too, feeling the warmth in his words. Then Miguel lifted the photo gently. But one day, he had to go where I couldn't follow. So I promised to keep doing magic, for both of us. He waved his hand slowly over the photo. The silk cloth fluttered as if touched by a breeze. The photo began to glow, a soft, white shimmer spreading across it. Then, before anyone could blink, the photo transformed into a small white dove that fluttered into the air. The audience gasped. A few people in the front row even stood up. The dove circled once above Miguel's head, its wings catching the golden stage light, then flew toward the rafters and disappeared behind the curtain. Miguel looked up, eyes glistening. "Hi, Papa," he whispered. Even Simon Cowell, who was known for his composure, blinked a few times, visibly moved. Amanda clasped her hands near her chest, whispering something to Alicia. The camera zoomed in on Miguel's small smile, a mixture of pride and sadness. But the act wasn't over. Miguel turned back to his table, picking up the deck of cards his father had given him. "My papa said that every card tells a story," he said softly. He spread them out like a fan: hearts, spades, clubs, diamonds. He said hearts are for love. He tapped the deck once, and suddenly, every single card in his hand turned into the ace of hearts. The crowd erupted with applause. Miguel bowed his head slightly, then continued with calm focus. Then he pulled out a single red rose from his pocket, holding it delicately. "This was my mama's favorite flower," he said, looking toward his mother sitting in the front row. "Papa always brought her one every Friday." He placed the rose in a clear glass on the table and covered it with the silk cloth again. He whispered something softly in Tagalog, "Para sa'yo, Papa, Mama." When he lifted the cloth, the rose had changed colors, from red to gold, sparkling under the lights. The audience gasped again, and Miguel smiled shyly. The camera caught his mother wiping away tears. The music swelled, mixing piano and soft violin. Miguel took a deep breath and looked toward the judges. "There's one last trick," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "It's called, the message." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He showed it to the camera. It was blank. "Sometimes," he said, "we can't see the love people leave behind, but it's still there." He folded the paper, held it in his small hands, and whispered, "Papa, if you can hear me, show them." He opened the paper slowly. This time, there were glowing golden words written across it, shimmering in the stage light. The camera zoomed in to reveal the message. "Greater than, love never disappears. It just transforms." For a second, the entire theater went silent. You could hear someone sniffle in the audience. Then, a wave of applause broke out, a powerful, emotional standing ovation. The judges were visibly touched. Simon looked down, trying to compose himself, while Amanda wiped tears from her cheeks. "That was absolutely beautiful," she whispered to herself. Miguel stood there, overwhelmed. The spotlight reflected off the tears in his eyes. He looked at the glowing message, then raised it toward the ceiling as if offering it to the heavens. "Thank you, Papa," he said softly. "I hope you're proud of me." The music swelled to a gentle crescendo. The stage lights brightened, bathing him in gold. Confetti began to fall slowly, not the golden buzzer yet, but a soft drizzle of light, like stars raining down. The audience stood, clapping and cheering. Some held their hands over their hearts. Miguel bowed deeply, both hands over his chest, whispering, "Salamat po, thank you." As he left the stage, he glanced back one last time at the glowing message still shining faintly on the paper. He smiled, whispered something only he could hear, and walked into the shadows of the backstage, ready for whatever would come next. Behind the scenes, his mother rushed to him, hugging him tightly. She kissed his forehead, whispering through tears, "You did it, Anik. You made him proud." Miguel smiled and looked up toward the lights. "I felt him there, Mama, right beside me." The moment froze, the image of a boy who had just turned grief into magic, pain into beauty, and love into something the whole world could feel. The stage lights dimmed slowly as Miguel stood frozen, still holding the glowing paper in his hands. The message, "Love never disappears. It just transforms," shimmered faintly before fading into the soft air like dust made of light. For a moment, it felt like time itself had stopped. And then, the silence broke. The audience erupted into applause, loud, thunderous, unstoppable. People rose from their seats, cheering and clapping. The camera panned across faces shining with tears. Some audience members placed their hands over their hearts. Others shouted his name, Miguel. Miguel. The little boy on stage looked stunned. He blinked, his lower lip trembling, his tiny body shaking under the weight of emotion and the blinding golden lights. Simon Cowell leaned back in his chair, his arms folded, but his eyes were glassy. He cleared his throat, trying to mask what he was feeling. Amanda leaned toward him, whispering, "He's incredible, I've never seen something like that." Miguel stepped closer to the judge's table, his small shoes tapping lightly on the glossy floor. He bowed slightly, clutching the deck of cards in both hands. "Thank you," he whispered into the microphone. His voice cracked mid-sentence. "That was for my papa, and for everyone who misses someone." That simple sentence made the entire theater fall silent again. Simon leaned forward. "Miguel," he said in his calm, measured tone, "you've done something that very few people can do. You've taken magic and turned it into emotion. You didn't just perform, you told a story. You made all of us feel something." Miguel smiled shyly, his eyes watery but bright. Amanda spoke next. "I think your papa is watching you right now," she said softly, her voice trembling. "And I think he's very, very proud." The audience clapped again. Miguel bit his lip, trying to stop himself from crying, but one tear rolled down his cheek anyway. Then came Alicia Dixon, leaning forward with a big smile. "Miguel, I've seen a lot of magicians, but never one who made me cry. You have something truly special, a gift that comes from your soul. You made everyone in this room believe in love." Again, Miguel's small hands gripped the microphone tighter. "Thank you so much, ma'am," he said politely, bowing again. Finally, Simon looked to the crowd, then back at Miguel. "There's only one thing left to say." The audience leaned forward, sensing something big was coming. Simon turned toward Alicia. She looked at Amanda, who nodded with tears in her eyes. And then, bam! Alicia slammed the golden buzzer. A brilliant burst of gold confetti exploded from above, showering the entire stage in glittering rain. The crowd screamed, jumped, and cheered. Miguel gasped, his hands flying to his mouth in disbelief. The host rushed from backstage, shouting, "He did it! He did it!" The cameras zoomed in on the little boy as he burst into tears, tears of joy, shock, and overwhelming relief. The judges stood up, clapping. Simon smiled, a rare, warm smile, and gave Miguel a standing ovation. The golden lights swirled around him like stardust. The music swelled, a mix of piano, strings, and gentle choir, turning the moment into pure cinematic magic. Miguel looked up, watching the golden pieces of paper fall from the sky. "Papa," he whispered through tears, "I did it." From the audience, his mother ran to the stage, tears streaming down her face. She didn't care about the cameras or the crowd. She just wanted to hold her son. She rushed to him and knelt down, wrapping her arms around him. Miguel dropped the microphone and hugged her tightly, burying his face into her shoulder. The golden confetti kept falling, onto her hair, onto his suit, onto the photo of his father that sat quietly on the side table. The camera zoomed in close, mother and son locked in an embrace that said more than words ever could. The audience cheered louder, chanting, "Miguel! Miguel! Miguel!" Simon turned to the camera, saying quietly, "This is what the show is all about." The host placed a comforting hand on Miguel's shoulder. "You've just made history, young man," he said. Miguel looked up, his eyes glistening with tears and wonder. "Can I say something?" he asked softly. The host nodded, handing him the mic. Miguel sniffled, still holding his mother's hand. "I just want to thank everyone here. My mama, my papa in heaven, and all of you, for believing in me. Magic isn't about tricks. It's about love." The crowd erupted again. People in the audience hugged each other. One camera caught a father holding his little boy and whispering, "See, that's real magic." The music swelled again as the camera panned upward, over the golden lights, the confetti swirling like a galaxy of tiny suns, and the giant LED screen behind him flashing his name in glowing letters. Sparkles Miguel Santiago, golden buzzer ACT Sparkles. The moment froze there, a small boy from Manila standing under the brightest lights in the world, shining with pure love and magic. As the final note of the music faded, the host whispered off mic to one of the producers, "That's the story people will talk about all year." And backstage, as Miguel was led away from the stage, he looked one last time at the empty space where he had performed. He could almost feel his father's presence, soft, unseen, but real. A whisper in the air seemed to say, "I'm proud of you, son." Miguel smiled through his tears. "I know, Papa," he whispered back. The lights dimmed to black. The episode would air days later and become one of the most emotional moments in Ireland's Got Talent history. Millions of views, thousands of comments, and one universal truth. Magic doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be honest. And in that moment, a 9-year-old Filipino boy had reminded the world what real magic truly was: love.